In this movie we'll take a look at corner and bay windows and how to use the Draw WinDoor Objects tool. We'll move to a blank layer, and the first thing you have to do when you're creating a corner window is to set up the WinDoor tool to be creating the kind of object that you want. And you can do this by either selecting the tool and clicking the Preferences button and making the choices here, or obviously you can also go and use the Copy or Apply and copy something that you've saved previously in your WinDoor Symbols folder. Let's go ahead and do this because I have one here that I've saved, a couple here actually. This one here is a WinDoor unit. This is a fixed glass window with some wall above and some wall below. And we'll look at we'll set that up, place one on the drawing, and take a look at how we got this result. Apply to the file as the default, click OK and OK again, and let's just put this in the drawing and have a look at what we've got here. You'll see that the corner options in the Object Info palette are expanded. By that I mean this box has been checked. And there's a piece of wall above. I'll just render this so you can see it. There's a piece of wall above and there's a piece of wall below the window, and the window is in between those two, and there's also a frame in the center, a sill, sorry, in the center. And so let's take a look here. We've got corner wall above and below. If I set that to above, there'll only be a corner wall above. If I set it to below, there'll only be one below, but we want our corner wall to go above and below this particular unit. The wall height are these two numbers here, so if I was to change this to say 3 meters, you'll see that one side of the wall will be 3 meters high, and if I change the other side, we'll also get 3 meters on that side. Okay, so this is what we're going to use to create. This is the basis of what we want for our corner unit. So we'll switch back to a top plan view and we'll take the WinDoor tool. And you take this tool and you draw a line that represents the inside edge of the wall. So if you had an existing wall, you'd want to line up with that wall. And then you just draw the shape that you want these windows to take. Remember, we're drawing on the inside. And let's just draw a kind of random shape here. Double click to finish, and when you've finished it will ask you if you want to omit the jambs between adjoining units. If you do that, you'll get mitered glass. If you don't do that, you'll get a mullion or corner post at each of the corner joins. So let's go ahead and delete the mullion, and here you can see that we've got then this corner unit that's run around in the shape that we drew. Remember, the line that we drew represented the inside edge of the wall. Let's take a look at this in 3D, and we'll spin that around and render it in OpenGL, and you can see that we've got the corner unit. The sill has been wrapped around and mitered appropriately, and on each edge of the frame, each end of the whole thing, we have a piece of frame. Now I want to talk about that for a moment. Let's just select this piece of wall here, and you'll notice under corner option here we have no right hand jam or trim. I'm sorry, it's just off, which means that off the right hand end of this unit it's going to not put in any jam there. If I said no left hand jam or trim, it would change this around and put the jam here and not have anyone there. If I said no jam or trim on either side, then we would get glass on both sides of the opening. So let's go back and set that to what it should have been, which was that setting there. This one here will obviously be set to no jam or trim no jamb or side trims, in other words on either side. Same with this one, and then this one here will have the jamb on one side of that window. So this is how the corner windows work in WinDoor. Now if this unit were to have architrave around the inside, that will also be managed correctly as well. Let's pick one of these units and demonstrate that. If we click on the geometry dialog and we click on frame, internal trim, and we go draw internal trim, and we'll put in a trim and sill, and we'll just go with the standard settings here. And you'll see that this has added now the trim around to this point here. Let's delete this original object because we don't need that anymore. So now we're going to use our copy or apply to transfer this to the other windows in this section here. So we'll go copy or apply, copy from selected, apply to file as the defaults, none, and we just want the trim and sill settings. That's applied it to the file as the default settings. Now let's select the other units. We'll go copy or apply again, copy from file defaults, apply to selected window objects, active layer only. Let's click none, and then we go trim and sill settings. Click OK, and now you'll see that we have got the trim running around correctly and being mitered and so on. You can see the sills working and so on. Now when you create WinDoor corner windows or bay windows, the idea is that you butt your wall up against the end of this here. So if you're going to put a piece of wall in here, and then that piece of wall would be coming in like that, and it would be coming off here like that. Obviously these would need to be an appropriate height. I think that was 2700, and you'd probably want to put a cap on the start of that and a cap on the end of that. And now you can look at that in 3D, and you can see that it actually works quite nicely when the wall is butted up there like that. Now let's take a look at creating a kind of bay window. I've begun by drawing these walls, and the walls are 3 meters high, and these represent the shape that I want for the actual unit itself. I'm going to draw some lines across the wall here to indicate the start and end points of my unit, and let's start with that one there and come off this point here. Now you can use lines to trim a wall. Currently this wall extends from this corner point to there. If I select the line and choose trim from the modify menu, it will cut this wall into 2 pieces, which is what I want. I'll leave the line there, and we'll do the same here, modify, trim, and you'll see that this piece of wall has now also been cut. Now to make these pieces of wall easier to select, I'm now selecting them, and I'm going to set their wall height back down to 0. And just to look in 3D, what we've got here is a piece of wall coming to here. We then just reduce the height of these 3 walls to 0. Our 2 trimming lines we'll still leave there, and it's important to leave these here because as we draw the window objects, these need to be on top so that we don't accidentally insert the window objects that we draw into these walls because they're being deleted. Okay, let's get our default unit into shape. Let's say for this one we don't want to have a brick sill. We want it to be an awning hung window. We want the height to be 2 meters. and we want the elevation to the head to be 8 feet, or around 2400. Geometry, let's turn the sills off, we don't want those. Under frame, we've got internal trim turned on, that's what we want. Under sash, we've got a maximum sash width. Let's set that to 900 because we don't want these awning hung windows to be any more than 900. Alright, so we're ready to go here. So we'll use copy or apply. Copy from selected, apply to the file as the default, click OK, and the file is now set up to draw these kinds of objects. Take the window object tool, the draw window object tool, and we click on this corner point here over that line. Click again on the corner points and do a slow double click to finish. We don't want to omit the jambs this time, and there we have our windows. Let's take a look at that in 3D and see if it's how we expect. And I've rendered that up. The only thing I didn't adjust was the wall height, but that's okay, because in some situations this wall here might be lower than the outer walls anyway, and I can demonstrate how you can put that to use. So we've got something that's roughly looking how we want it. Let's begin by adjusting the height on the ends of these ones here. So this needs to be up at 3 meters at this end and stay at that height at the other end. So this is the left hand end, wall height left, let's set that to 3 meters. And on this one, wall height right, we want to set that to 3 meters. And that's now got our sloping head on the top as we want to see it. There we go. Now, as another slight variation here, let's say that instead of having a window there, we wanted to have a door here. We'll get rid of this unit, we don't need it anymore. So we'll select this piece and we'll switch it from being awning hung window to hinged left door. We'll switch the door to be glazed and the number of doors to be 2. And finally we need to match the door height to the elevation, which is 2400. So we'll do that. 2400. That looks better. And we've got our door unit there, nicely mitered here with the windows as well. All that's left is to put a roof on that. And it looks pretty good. Now, we obviously don't need these lines anymore. Oh, and by the way, remember the walls that we had down the bottom here. If I draw a marquee around the bottom there, you'll see that there are those 3 walls that we set to 0 height. We can just select those and delete them, and we've got our unit, and we can also delete that line which we no longer need. The final kind of unit that I want to demonstrate is going to be based on a unit that looks something like this. I can see we've got a sill overhang there, so we'll just correct that by coming in here to our frame, and under members we'll set the sill to be the same size as the jambs and the head. That's it. And what we want to do now is to set this as the file default. I'll just render that so you can see it's literally just a frame with 3 height divisions that are equal. Overall it's 2500 high. So copy or apply, copy from selected, apply to the default, click OK. Now we'll take the draw window object tool, and again I'm drawing on one side of this unit, and I want to particularly demonstrate what we can do with the corners here. And yes, we want to omit the jambs. We'll delete our original. and let's spin this up. And you can see what's happened is that we've got those intermediate transoms have also extended through and created those miters on the corners as well. Now it may be that you wanted to put a door in this unit here. So how would you go about that? Well, the first important thing to remember is that you've got to remember what the overall width of this is, because we can't change the width. If we change the width, then these miters are going to change out here. But what we're going to have to do to put a door in here is to change this from being 3 units high by 1 unit wide. And by the way, these internal divisions are coming from the maximum sash width, which is set to 1200. Now we need to break this into 3 width divisions as well, but we want to maintain this width here. So I'll select that field and copy it so that we have it on the clipboard. Then let's click the form dialog, number of width divisions 3, and let's say that we want to have equal width divisions, and we've got 934. Now you may want to put, say, a standard door in here. So let's go with an 820 for a standard door. And what that's going to do is to mess up the overall width of this. But we'll deal with that in a moment. Let's extend, actually no, the top one will be fixed, so we'll leave that on fixed glass, sorry. This one will extend down, and at the bottom we'll put a hinged left door, and we don't want a threshold because this is an internal door. And what we're going to do is to lock this so that when we change the overall width back to this number here, this 820 will stay locked. Let's go ahead and do that. Click OK. And you'll see that the length has changed slightly. Okay. So, but we've locked this in at 820. And so now I can come back here, paste that number that we copied, hit enter, and this is going to spring back out to the size that I want. If this was a glazed door, then I could also put a glazed door in there. Now the heights of this are probably a little bit wrong, but you get the idea of how you can use these units and modify them after they've been created and still get the corner glass indicating like this.